The other end of that on dyslexia is the coloration of the background of the letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that we get to
Black with white lettering is the best.
get to
Black
that right
background,
here.
white lettering is the best.
Well, actually put black background on a particular green, or some dyslexics.
Yeah, or yellow.
Is what is good or
It's a real impact.
Yeah, it really is. What you have right there is
not
wonderful.
bad.
What you have is,
It's just
Actually, what you've got in color blindness is almost the right background color.
yeah.
Wow, really? With white on it?
Yeah, but you have a green
That would
background,
seem like that'd
white
be hard
is
for me to see.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
Interesting. Well, see, that's the nice, and I don't mean to sidetrack, but that's the nice thing about one of the other things that goes into this web accessibility and everything else accessibility is the ability for people to put their own, you've heard of cascading style sheets, use their own style sheets to style text so that it's in colors and sizes and fonts and whatever that make it easy for them to read. And why there's one of the hallmark one of the things that's checked in web accessibility is that you don't trump the reader's ability to do that. So so that goes for like your corporate websites and whatever, that you make that option available by not locking it out, so that the reader can substitute their own CSS for it. Some of the assistive technologies I can think of for color blindness, it's a lot of about color blindness, from my understanding, it really is just having a certain set of rules you have to play by, because there are a lot of varieties of color blindness, and it's can be impossible to optimally tune something for everybody. It's optimal for this person, and it's maybe suboptimal for somebody else. So, but you have the potential, at least, that the display device might have some unique properties that would make it more open to somebody with color blindness. Document properties to me are a big deal, and I threw screen readers in there thinking, well, yeah, that could possibly work. I don't know if a person with color blindness would want to go to the trouble of using a screen reader, though, because they're a little less than wonderful still. Let's see. But how we can help is creating high contrast text, including alternate ways of conveying information as well. So, in fact, one of the absolute have-to-have rules of accessibility is to have high contrast. And there are actually, they'll have a few references up here, but they're in several places, including a site called Accessibility in Mind, which is run by an institute out of Utah State University, and another one, the big daddy is WC3. They both have links to contrast. What's what I want to call it? Utilities, basically, where you can plug in the two colors, and it'll tell you what the contrast ratio is between the two of them, so that you can, I tell my people I work with, I say, well, you can use it to settle arguments, because we kind of know what looks good and what looks a little sketchy, and if necessary, we can prove that it's sketchy by trotting out the computer, the calculator. But so that's
Actually, on the flip side of that, there's something very valuable too that's not very well distributed, is dyslexic adaptations to the spell checkers on the data entry side.
Yeah. But I can see that. It reminds me, though, of one funny thing where I work. We have two acronyms. One is IHS, Indian Health Service, and another one is EHR, Electronic Health Record. And if you don't go in and fix your spell checker, it changes the one to his and the other to her all the time. Let's see. Okay. In the deafness arena, of course, kind of like your eyeglasses, you know, there's the potential for maybe you can solve it, or a person could solve it with a hearing aid. Captioning is really important. It's coming to the forefront now because, you know, the law says, especially for the government, is anything you do in disseminating electronic information has to be accessible. And so that means, hey, you record a webinar, it's got to have subtitles on it before you can put it out there for people to access. And it even includes government agencies that use YouTube. You know,
It does?
yes,
Government agencies? I
yeah.
thought they were exempt from
No,
Not?
no, not at all. In fact, everybody else has a basis for exemption except the government.
Oh, okay.
So.
Let's see.
One thing I didn't realize existed till I read this, and you put this in here, was signing avatars, which is I'm not quite sure if it's a thing that works on the fly or if it's another thing that has to be done to set up ahead of time. But I could imagine that there probably are speech recognition software that, with a little bit of training, could actually listen to your voice and come up with the signs for it. So.
Well, sign language avatar.
Well, that's it. That's what that is. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, basically, the way it generally
Where did
works,
that
on a signing avatar, you already have a caption,
Uh-huh.
and the avatar.
Oh, it takes the.
It's a robot the stick figure robot basically.
Shows up at the
So it takes the
corner.
captions
Yeah.
instead of the voice recognition. That's interesting. Let's see. So how can we help? I mean, I hate to say minimize stuff, but I have to tell people all the time, you know, you got to cut back a little bit. You know, arrows and green and blue and all this stuff, you know, it just doesn't work. Because, you know, especially if I make you write the alt text to make it work, okay? So, I think, you know, that's certainly one of the approaches. Captioning, labeling graphics adequately. You've probably all gone to a web page where graphics supposed to be there and it isn't. And more often than not, if you could read it, it says something cryptic that kind of like means, I don't know what's supposed to go here. But if it's been properly labeled through alternate text, then the verbiage actually says, this is the company logo, you know, or something like that. So, let's see. And the other one I bring up, what I call, to get a short term out of it, neuromuscular deficits, which basically, I think we understand this, it's reduced ability to move the mouse or to actuate the keyboard, what have you. So we have to provide, not that we provide a third route to do it, but that normally the way we approach this area, and I think, is that, you know, there could be voice to text tools that are used, but at the very least we need to make things like that accessible. So like, for example, buttons that launch actions always need to be accessible by tabbing through the page, whatever it is. You know? Because a person may not have the manual dexterity to use a mouse and get on that device and click at the same time, but they can tab to it and hit enter. So that's like an alternative approach. And
Your eye movement one, isn't David Hawkins use that eye movement?
yeah,
recognition?
that's a pretty extreme case. I don't know.
He uses a combination of eye movement, a partial head tracker, and Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's a fairly standard interface. It's not cheap, but it's fairly standard.
Yeah.
And to say that there are several hundred students in ABS at that.
Really?
Really?
Yes,
But he also has the chip,
he has the talker.
Yeah.
the thing that actually reads brain.
Yeah, that's still.
I don't know how well that works.
I think he invented that too.
Yeah, I did a lot to better, guys.
Would we expect anything less?
No.
How we can help, I think, once again, is creating well-structured documents with a predictable tab order. I mentioned the tab order issue there before. And keyboard. This is important too, I didn't mention though, but controls have to have unique names. Because, you know, you can't just have 5 things on the page defined as action button. You know, they have to be what the action is or whatever, and they need to be unique. If they do unique things, obviously there might be 2 buttons on the page that do the same thing. I don't know, but they need to be unique in order to be addressable by assistive technology. Because otherwise they go, you know, I don't know what to do. The technology does.
And actually, if you're controlling your software development and have a proper standard, that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was my old job. I kind of became the unofficial usability advocate in the sense that the developers were pretty notorious for just allowing their software application package with their coding, yeah, to just assign numbers to things.
Button 1, button 2.
Yeah,
button
exactly.
3.
And that just, you know, I mean, we didn't have an accessibility requirement at the time that I knew of, but I was sure thinking that we ought to have.
Well, not only that, but that has to do with your ability to trace back and read the code.
Well, sure.
You
Yeah,
don't
self-documenting code.
You don't want to have button 1, you want to have enter
Right,
as the action button.
right.